welcome to today's tutorial on how to use Seesaw. Today I'll be going through the basics of Seesaw and how you can use it in your classroom. Today what we're going to do is have a look at an existing Seesaw portfolio that I've already created with one of the schools that I've been working with. So to begin, we can use any device to access this. The great thing about this is that you can use an iPad, a MacBook, a Chromebook, or even a Windows 10 device, and you'll still be able to access it. I'm here on my Windows 10 device, and all I've done is gone into seesaw.com, and this is the interface that I've got. So I'm going to log in by saying that I'm a teacher. And because here we are a New South Wales Department of Education school, I'm going to sign in with Google. And by doing that, we actually are able to access additional features within Seesaw at no cost. So I will choose my account and I'll be able to get in. So these are the classes that I have here. I'm going to use this one specifically only because of the amount of content that I have in here. So basically I use Seesaw to help teachers document the work that students do. It can be used to document work and for students to record their own work as well as annotate their own work. You can actually complete activities and have a markbook section all within Seesaw as well. And the great thing about this is that all of the students' work are all in the one place, so it's much easier for them to find it. Something that to do when we set this up before we get started, as you can see, this is what the interface looks like. So this is like, if we think of it like Facebook, this is what our stream will look like. Over here is our settings, and down here is where our students are. So we can actually add students manually, or we can add them via their email address. The great thing about Seesaw is that you don't have to worry about students logging in using their education email address, which is perfect for kindy kids who have difficulties spelling or trying to type at a reasonable pace. So we can actually set this up so students are scanning QR codes and they don't have to worry about typing any information in. So when we hit on this settings button, here we have all of the information back here. But this is the way that students will actually be able to get into their codes. So if we want students to have their own codes, we can click here and you can actually download the codes. So this will actually give you a printout that shows you what all the codes are for each student. Now I've kept this very generic, so you'll have here where it says student 1, this is their codes. So they can either enter that in or they can scan it in through a QR code. You have student 2, student 3 and so forth. So for your class of 20 students, you will get a code individually for them, and that way they can add work to themselves. Now at school you can have a generic QR code as well that when you set up the class you'll get as well. So you can actually have that printed in your classroom and any student can scan that and then allocate their work to them. So Seesaw has a fantastic login system that students can do very, very easily. And the great thing is that with QR codes, particularly now because of the COVID pandemic, everybody knows how to use a QR code. I was actually at a restaurant the other day and actually saw a little child doing it for their mum and dad at the restaurant. So it's becoming a skill that students are actually developing at a very young age. So for each of these students, what I have actually done is allocated or collected evidence of work that they've actually produced. So if we look at student 1, these are all the works that student 1 has done. So here is a photograph of a student who is doing reading eggs on their iPad. So basically, this is a photograph from a teacher's perspective, photographing that they are actually doing the work. So this is a great way to collect evidence of their work, particularly at a young age, that you can then show their parents a progress either over a semester or over the year. Here we see a video recording. So in this particular instance, the students are doing a music activity based with maths and patterns, and they have actually set up the iPad themselves to record themselves. And the idea in this particular class was that they had to record their best performance. So these students had actually practiced and they had recorded themselves, didn't like it, and then actually did it a second time.
What did we just put it? Now you stop.
So it's a great way to actually collect evidence of students and what they're learning, performing, when activities such as this, where they are physical and active activities, you don't normally collect that evidence. And it's a great way for you to see what your class is all doing frantically when you're a teacher and you're doing rotations and you are moving around the room, so you're not actually going to see what all of your students are doing. This was just a class example of the students actually participating in a class activity. But this is something that's really exciting. This is students in kindy doing reading eggs, and again the students had set up the iPad themselves to actually record themselves doing their activity. The great thing about this as well is that the students can actually go ahead and annotate their own work. So once they take a photo of their work, and I will show you an example, when they take a photo of their own work, they can actually write all over it or type all over it, so they can actually say what they liked about the activity, what they didn't like, or what they would do better next time. This here is an example of a worksheet that was actually submitted by the teacher to each of their students. So the students here had to complete the work and fill in the numbers. So this activity here was sent to all of the students, and the great thing about everything here as well is that as a teacher you can provide direct feedback, and in addition to that, their parents who are able to log in at home, and you as a teacher can set those permissions, but their parents can actually see what their work is in real time, which is an added bonus, because at the moment parents are only seeing their child's work at the end of every term when books are sent home. So this is another great way for parents to be involved in their child's learning as well. Here we see a kindy student actually scanning a QR code so she can upload her work to Seesaw. This here is an example of a student recording their best work. So this is a literacy activity by kindy, and they had to basically write down their sight words. But what they did was they actually recorded it, and the teacher was able to monitor their progress over the course of a year and actually see how their reading, their spelling, their handwriting, quite a lot of components, as well as their confidence, could be tracked. And that's something that we don't normally see when we are teaching.
I like my work because I'm proud of myself.
Excellent. Okay, so that's basically what the class journal looks like. So you can have the class journal where you see everybody's, and then the students have their own work. The great thing about this is the student will only see their own work. They won't have access or be able to see anybody else's, and the teacher is the only person that is able to see each of the students in there. Additionally, when parents join, they won't be able to see other children that's in the class. They can only see their own child, and that's a huge privacy win for Seesaw. When we go to activities here, this is absolutely fantastic. There are a ton of activities built in to Seesaw already. So by going to activities, you can have a look at the ones that you've assigned to class, or you can actually have a look at the ones that are in here. So if I just scroll down a little bit here and go browse activity library, I can see all of the lessons that other teachers have actually placed in here, and I can search for them as well by age group or by KLA. So all of these lessons are actually created by other teachers for teachers, so we know that they've been successful. The great thing about this is that it almost works like Pinterest a little bit. So I can go through here, and there's one here more about animals. I like that, but I'm going to use that later. And I like this book, Spat the Cat. So let's just like those. And what will happen is that when I go back to my library, up here in my library, those activities will appear in my library. So I don't have to remember them and then think, okay, I'm going to have to remember them and then try to remember to find them later. I can add them to my gallery in my library, and then I can disseminate those to students as I need them. And if you don't want to use the activities that's within there, you can create your own activities and then share that out with all of your students. And the great thing is that you can actually share this out to multiple Seesaws, so you can actually send it to all students within kindergarten or all students within year 1, which is a fantastic tool. In the inbox, that's just for communication if you'd like to communicate with your students or parents. It's completely up to you how you use it. But this is something that I love about Seesaw, and this is the skills component. So when you click on skills, this acts as a mark book for your students. So here you can see that I've actually put the outcomes for different types of KLA areas. So these are directly out of the New South Wales syllabus and the ICT capabilities, or sorry, the Australian general capabilities. And these are the outcomes that we're going to assess and perhaps appear on a school report card. So here we can actually grade our students accordingly, and this acts as a one-stop shop, so we don't have to record details at the end of our day book in the back of a book anymore, or on pieces of paper or on Excel spreadsheets. We can put it all in here, so all of their work is kept together, and then at the end we can export this, and it does export to an Excel spreadsheet as well. If you are using Central, I believe that can then be imported into Central directly. So great tools there. Now what I'm going to do actually is I'm just going to show you how we would actually add an activity. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask my students to look at a book cover that I'm going to take a photo of and upload, and I would like them to annotate it and tell me what they think the book is about. So by doing that, I click on the add button and I'm going to post student work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to post a photo. So by clicking on that, I can take a photo, and there is my book. And what I can actually do is I can actually put instructions on here as well. So I can actually put here, for example, let's click on the title. So if I click on T, that will allow me to type. Here we go. And I'm just going to drag. Oops. Perhaps I'll write title first and then I will drag it. That's better. And I would also like to draw attention to the image. So this is what I'm going to do. So the students can actually take photos themselves and annotate it this way as well. So I'm going to tick that off to say that it's completed, and I'm going to allocate this work to all of my students in my class. So with that should come instructions. So in my instructions here, I'm going to suggest, it's going to edit that post. And here it is. So I'm just going to say, by looking at this book cover, describe the story inside. Okay, let's click on that. And there is our activity. And if I click on all of our students, you will see that they will be able to do that. So each student has access to that as well, which is fantastic. Now the great thing is, for a student to be able to complete it, they will just come in and they will have permissions to comment or to add files or add videos. So I don't see that at the moment because we are coming in from a teacher. So that is a fantastic way of students learning. At the end of the year, what happens now with this Seesaw, like the student's going to move on to the following year in school. So we don't want to lose all of this work. Now what's great about this as well is that you can click on print PDF, and the entire portfolio will come up and be printed as a PDF document that you can either then email home or print for the child and their parents. And there it is. So there's also a QR code that links every single activity back to the original Seesaw so they can see that. So unless you delete the Seesaw, parents will always be able to access it, and so will the student. Even if you archive the class, they'll still be able to have access, which is fantastic. So there you go. An absolutely fantastic tool, highly recommended for all parents and all teachers, particularly of the younger years in primary school. If you have any questions about Seesaw, please feel free to reach out. My email address and my Twitter account should be appearing down the bottom. Please stay tuned and watch my other how-to videos. Thank you.